What's up, your boy Vaughn? Another reaction. In today's video, we have why modern tennis players are suddenly giants by East. We reacted to another video. I reacted to a video about Rafael Nadal by this nigga. And we react to everything on this channel. We reacting to some tennis content, my nigga. Let's get to it. Oh, my nigga.
Nearly a foot between them. Taylor Fritz at 1.96 m and Baez
Damn.
is just 1.70 m. Oh, beautiful.
It became personal with me.
Yeah, that nigga said too.
What an upset.
Tennis is getting taller, and there's a weird reason.
And he beat that nigga. That nigga did that shit. Nigga said too small and he
It
lost.
became personal with me.
What an upset.
Tennis is getting taller,
That nigga broke his rack, tried to break his rack.
and there's a weird reason why. At the 2005 US Open final, Roger Federer met Andre Agassi. Federer, 6'1", Agassi, 5'11". And Agassi is not some random. He was an 8-time slam champion, a former world #1, and even at 35 years old, with his body barely holding together, he was still standing on that final Sunday at the US Open. And at the time, nothing about this looked impossible. That was tennis, a sport where a 5'11" player could stand across from the best player in the world in a slam final. But Agassi was not alone. Layne Hewitt was around 5'10", David Ferrer was 5'9", and they were both perennial top 10 players. Tennis still had room for compact bodies at the very top of the sport. Then the sport started changing shape. In 2014, Kei Nishikori reached the US Open final. He was listed at 5'10", but across from him was Marin Cilic, a 6'6" behemoth. And in hindsight,
Damn.
that much gave us a
Big tall ass playing fucking tennis. Boy, go play rugby or something.
real-time look at how the tennis prototype was changing. Then if we fast forward to the 2025 Australian Open final, we have Jannik Sinner against Alexander Zverev, a supposedly 6'3" Sinner against a 6'6" Zverev. That is a massive jump. But the craziest part is not just the height, it is how well these guys move for how tall they are. From 2005 to 2025,
Nigga slime.
the number of top 50 players 6'5" or taller went from 5 to 14. And these are not just serve bots relying on dominating one aspect of the game. They are players ranked as high as 3, 6, 11, and 13. So yes, tennis is getting taller, but the more interesting question is why it didn't happen sooner. Because tall players have always existed, but they have not always dominated the top end of the sport like they do today. So what changed? The real story is that tennis has finally found a way to make height work. For decades, height came with drawbacks. A taller player had advantages, a stronger serve, more reach, higher contact points, and unreal power when the timing lined up. But once the rally got going, their movement was exposed fairly quickly. And that is
I saw a nigga in the comments mentioned that me biting my nails. I don't be biting my nails. I'm biting the skin on my lips. I gotta stop doing that shit. I be biting the skin inside my mouth. I got that tism. Yo, I got tism.
what makes today's players so interesting. Jannik Sinner is not only one of the best players in the world, he might also be one of the best built tennis players we've ever seen. He is not the tallest, he is not the biggest, but he is the first player we've seen that has all the advantages of a taller player while also being one of the best movers in the sport. For most of the modern era, the ideal tennis build sat in a very specific window. Sampras, Federer, and Nadal were all 6'1", Djokovic 6'2", Murray 6'3". Enough height to hold serve, enough length to defend, still compact enough to bend, change direction, and survive long battles. That was the zone of compromise. Big enough to get advantages, but not so big that your own body became your Achilles heel.
So height matters in tennis. I know you probably do gotta have long arms. You know what I'm saying?
And the funny part is, even the players who were once treated like physical monsters do not look oversized anymore. Sampras had one of the most iconic serves in tennis history, and Roddick was the serve bot of his era. But Sampras was just 6'1", and Roddick was 6'2". Today, those measurements look like the norm, which tells you how far the body type of tennis has shifted. For the longest time, tennis rewarded useful height. Over time, the athlete changed, and that useful height started creeping upward. At Wimbledon, the average male champion in the 1960s was around 5'10". By the 2010s, it was
That
around
trophy on.
6'2". And now we see these players everywhere in the top 10. Alexander Zverev is 6'6", Daniil Medvedev is 6'6", Taylor Fritz is 6'5", Ben Shelton is around 6'4", Felix Auger-Aliassime is 6'4", and Sinner is officially 6'3", but his build belongs in that same category. The modern top 10 does not look like it used to, and now players like Alcaraz at 6 foot are starting to look like the anomaly. But tennis has not just become a sport for giants. Giants have always existed. John Isner, Ivo Karlovic, Riley Opelka. These are some of the most terrifying serving bodies tennis has ever seen. But the serve has never been enough on its own, because height gives you an obvious advantage. The problem is what happens after that serve goes in. Tennis makes tall bodies bend, stop, restart, recover, return, defend low balls, change direction, and do it hundreds of times each match. Then Daniil Medvedev came along and changed how height is perceived. At 6'6", he became world number 1 by playing nothing like a classic giant. He stood miles behind the baseline, thrived on longer rallies, and turned his height into reach rather than just serving prowess. Medvedev proved a 6'6" player could crack the old ceiling, but he still feels like an exception. Everything about him is unusual. The technique, the court position, the movement patterns, the way he returns from another postcode. He looks like a loophole in the system, and that loophole exists because tennis itself changed. Modern rackets made power easier to access. Polyester strings made it safer to swing violently, and that changed the rally ball. The modern ball kicks off the ground like nothing else, and once the ball starts jumping, height matters in a completely different way. The same heavy topspin forehand that lands at Sinner's chest can land at a 5'7" Baez' shoulder. For Sinner, that ball can sit inside a powerful strike zone. For Baez, it can become a problem before he even starts attacking. Over one rally, maybe that looks minor, but over 200 points, it becomes the difference. And while the ball was getting heavier and higher, the taller players were also getting better at moving. They slide better, they decelerate better, and the new tall players...
How the hell these niggas not tearing all the fucking ligaments in the ankles? Like, how these niggas not tearing the PCL, the MCL? Like these niggas slided, like...
built differently too. Leaner, longer, lighter, and more elastic. So modern tennis changed from both directions. The ball got higher, which made height more valuable. The bodies got better, which made height less expensive. The benefits got bigger, the tax got...
niggas do a lot of flexing and shit like that. Shruction, my nigga.
Smaller. And once that happened, the ideal build started moving upward. That is why Sinner is starting to feel more...
fucking yoga and shit. Balance, exercises.
Like the blueprint. He is the exact kind of tall that this new version of tennis rewards. Long, lean, efficient. And this is where Sebastian Baez becomes such a useful contrast. Because once you understand the bounce height problem, you understand why being 5'7" in modern men's tennis changes the point before the point has even properly started. Baez is almost the best possible version of the smaller player. Fast, tough, relentless, and comfortable extending rallies. And he was good enough to reach the top 20 in the world. But at 5'7", he has to put in more of himself in every single point. Sinner can serve his way out of trouble. Baez usually has to fight his way out. Sinner can stretch wide and turn defense into neutral. Baez has to be earlier, sharper, and more precise. In other words, he has to play more tennis to win the same amount of points. That does not stop the smaller player from being great. It just means that when a guy at his size does thrive, it's even more impressive. And that contrast was hilariously put on full display in a match between 6'5" Taylor Fritz and Sebastian Baez. During the match, Fritz made the NBA too small gesture, which in a non-contact sport is hilarious. Then Baez came back and won, which is why the moment is so perfect. The taller player had the obvious physical advantage, was cocky enough to gloat, but the smaller player still found a way through. So shorter
ball was mad in the picture and broke his shit.
Players are not disappearing. They can
bro from Argentina, Baez.
Still fight and embarrass taller players.
Argentinian, the short.
On the right day.
Messi.
But across a full season, across surfaces,
look at Messi, what the fuck?
Across best of 5 formats, the sport just makes them work harder than everyone else. One player who makes it look effortless is Jannik Sinner. And Sinner's body is interesting for where it sits on the spectrum. There are heaps of taller players, but Sinner sits right at the edge of the classic championship range. Taller than Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, not as extreme as Medvedev or Zverev, tall enough to get the serve benefits, long enough to get the reach, but still lean enough to recover, light enough to change direction, elastic enough to generate pace, and balanced enough to play long, punishing baseline rallies without looking like he's...
this dude, this ginger nigga, he must be the best tennis player in the world right now, because I do got a video in my watch later about him by the same channel. He needs to be stopped now. I'm pretty sure that's the same nigga. Just
Body is
saying, yeah.
fighting him. That is the sweet spot. Or maybe the new version of it. Sinner is officially
Sinner.
6'3" and around 76 kilograms, which is incredibly lean for someone that tall. But his power comes from timing, leverage, rotation, and racket head speed. Long arms, huge cuts at the ball. And because he is so lean, he does not carry the same movement cost you expect from a taller player. That is what makes him feel different, and he benefits from being tall in the right way. But height alone never solved tennis. If it did, the 6'11" serve bots would already own the sport. Compact movement alone does not solve it either. Otherwise, the tour would still be dominated by players 6 feet or under. The answer sits somewhere in the middle, but that range is moving. And Sinner might be showing us the new upper edge of that ideal. A player tall enough to get the modern advantages, without becoming so tall that the body turns into a constant problem. The future of tennis belongs to that balance. So tennis did not just get taller, it found a better way to be tall. And Jannik Sinner is showing the blueprint.
Make sure like, comment, subscribe, and we'll do see this.